welcome students in our class. Solution of a new topic of class 8 SST Geography. Students, we see in previous topic we have been discussed about factor affecting of soil formation, and now in this video we will see about soil profile. So students, very important topic is there, and if you see what is soil profile, soil is formed in horizontal layers. If we observe cross section of the earth crust, we will be able to study the soil profile. These are four main layers of soil. So students, what is soil profile? Layers of soil from the ground surface to where soil meets the underlying rocks. Student, that means if we see this is our earth, and if we see this is the upper part layer, upper topmost part of the earth, starting from the rocks, or if we see from upper side, it ends to the rocks. Means the inner rocks of earth starts the soil up to a thin layer, and that soil also have humus. What is humus? Organic component of soil made of decomposed leaves and other plant materials formed by microorganisms present in soil. So students, what happens there? Soils are humus. What is humus? That organic composed material that is of plants, animals, submission, and that is decomposition of leaves and other plant materials formed by microorganisms. So by whom they decomposed? By microorganisms. Students, I think you have to know what is microorganisms. Microorganisms, organisms which are present in our soil, and by that the decaying leaves and plants and animals submitted in that and decomposed in that and formed humus, HUMUS, and we can say this is also fertility of soil. So students, these are four main layers of the soil. If we see topsoil, subsoil, and substratum and bedrock. So in this thin layer after rock of earth, this layer of soil has also four types or parts. We can elaborate them, and these are the four main layers of soil. What are they? Topsoil. Topsoil is the topmost layer of soil, which is made up of very fine particles of rocks. Soil. So what is topmost? This topmost soil is topsoil, and it is made up of fine particles. What are they? That fine particles? That fine particles of rocks such as sand, silt, and clay. Okay, that all concrete and sand and clay of rock. It also contains humus. The topsoil holds the root of the plant firmly. So this topsoil holds the root of plants firmly, rigidly, or constantly, and in that humus that we discussed, that fertile component, that organic component of soil made of decomposed leaves and other plants and animals, lives in topmost layer of soil, which is topsoil, students. And that topsoil hold the roots of plants firmly. The all plants emerge on that area. So subsoil is the layer of soil below the topsoil. The layer is made up of weathered rocks, silt, clay, and soluble minerals, and iron oxides subsoil absorbent. So just inner or down part of topmost soil or topsoil, there is subsoil, and in subsoil some weathered rocks, weathered rocks, that means some bigger part of rocks, and after weathering then it becomes in concrete, so weathered rocks. And some insoluble minerals are there also, some soluble minerals in that part, soluble minerals. Student, what is mineral? Substance that having some definite composition. Substance means matter and solid, liquid, gas. So substance which have some definite composition, some definite compound they have. So soluble minerals are in the second layer of that soil, and that is subsoil. And if you see, subsoil absorbs rainwater. So all rainwater is being absorbed in subsoil, which is after topsoil. And the third layer is their substratum. What is substratum? Substratum lies between subsoil and parent bedrock. And it consists of thick pieces of rocks, mostly weathered rocks. So after this rock, after this bedrock, the last layer of soil is bedrock. So between bedrock and subsoil, between bedrock and subsoil, there is substratum. There is substratum. What is substratum? The layer of earth, third layer of earth. In there, some pieces of rocks, mostly weathered rocks, belongs to there. So some hard rocks or weathered rocks are there in that type of soil, and mostly weathered rocks, and it is nearby the parent bedrock. This is the parent bedrock by whom the weathering happens or occurs, and by that weathering soil forms. Student, as you know, this innermost solid always being in weather and weathering, and by that weathering some concretes of rocks founded and some small pieces of rocks, and after that it becomes in bedrock, then substratum soil, then subsoil, and then topsoil. So these formations always being in continuous process. Students, if you see bedrock is a solid layer of weathered rocks, the parent bedrock which forms the bottom of the soil profile. So students, as I said, this parent bedrock of inner side is the main reason to form the soil. So this is also the last layer of soil, and it forms the three upper layers of soil. Students, if we see types of soil found in India, these are 6 major types of soil found in India, and that are type of soil. Firstly, we see alluvial soil, northern and coastal plains. If we see the map of India in this small figure, you see the northern and coastal plains. This whole coastal plains, that means sea root area, sea nearby sea, that area are nearby sea, that are coastal area, and all coastal area, you can say your western Ghats and eastern Ghats, having alluvial soil, and which northern, this whole northern and coastal part, this whole northern area has alluvial soil, and this coastal plant, that means sea banks also having alluvial soil. Okay, students, what is second form of soil which is found in India? Black soil, northwestern part of the Deccan Plateau. In South India there is Deccan Plateau, and north and western part of the Deccan Plateau is availability of black soil. If we see red soil, third type of soil, southern and eastern parts of the peninsular India. What is peninsular India? This is peninsular India, up of Sri Lanka, that is peninsula, and what is had been said there, southern and eastern parts of the peninsular India. This is southern part of the peninsular India, and after that eastern part. Which is eastern part? That is this part. There is some Andaman and Nicobar and all this area which belongs to there belongs to red soil, and after that laterite soil. Certain parts of the eastern and western Ghats and northeast India, So some north part of northeast India, and after eastern and western Ghats, certain parts, somewhere eastern and western Ghats, that is laterite soil, and northeast India is available with laterite soil. And after that, mountain soil. Mountain soil is in Himalayan region. As the word mountain, this all mountain soil belongs to Himalayan region. And if we see desert soil, the last types of soil, that is dry regions mainly in Rajasthan. That's and we say the deserts are in Rajasthan and nearby border of Gujarat. So these all are desert soil. And if we see what is soil erosion, students, very important topic now. We are going to discuss what is soil erosion. Very important. Soil erosion refers to the removal of topsoil by running water and wind. So this topmost part of soil, that is topsoil, if it removes by some reason like water and wind, since this layer contains humus and certain other nutrients, its depletion makes the soil infertile. So students, if there is humus, that means there is fertility, and if this this humus and this fertility is in the topmost soil of the earth's layer, and if it's removed from there, the fertility of that soil will be decreased automatically. And we see that since this layer contains humus and certain other nutrients, its depletion makes the soil infertile. Loss of fertility results in poor plant growth. This means that there will be lesser plants and their roots to hold the soil. This results in further removal of topsoil. As we know, this topsoil hold firmly the plant's root, and if there is not topmost soil, the infertility will be increased, and as you know, the plants will grow there will be poor as weak and as have to be. This means there will be lesser plants and their roots to hold the soil. This results in further removal of topsoil. So if there is soil erosion, if there is removal of top layer of soil, so that means soil erosion. And if this soil erosion happens, so the roots of plants, the firmness of them decreases, the rigidity, the gripping of them decreases, and by that the other plants of nearby grows weak, and by that soil also erodes, has been and would be erodes more. So students, if there are plants, soil erosions will be decreased. If we do afforestation, if we do plantation of more and more plants, the topsoil will not be erosion will not be removed. Okay, so that's why afforestation and plantation has been decreased from the government side. So students, this means there will be lesser plants and their roots to hold the soil. This results in further removal of topsoil. Ways of soil erosion. What are the ways by the soil erosion occurs? There are two ways in which the erosion of topsoil can happen. Seat erosion. What is this? Seat erosion happens when during heavy rainfall, topsoil is removed at places where there is less vegetation. So what is seat erosion? Seat erosion happens when during heavy rainfall, topsoil is removed at places where there is less vegetation. If there is heavy rainfall, and if there is no vegetation at that place before or from before, like in vegetation you can say not only vegetables, all type of greeneries are in vegetables, all types of plants are in vegetation. So if there is not any plants from previous time, the rainfall will cut the upper soil, will erode the upper soil. And what happens then? This erosion is known as seat erosion. Erosions happen by heavy rainfall. Erosions happen by heavy rainfall, we call seat erosion. And what is second? Gully erosion. What is gully erosion? Happens on uneven terrains when heavy rainfall forms deep grooves in which the topsoil gets collected. So if there is unlevel terrain or plains, so the heavy rainfall collects the soil from upper side to the lower side, and by that also soil erosion occurred. If we see, gully erosion happens on uneven terrains when heavy rainfalls forms deep grooves. What is groove, students? Long narrow depression on soil. So if there is long narrow depression of soil, that means if there is not flat, we can say, if there is ladder type situation of land, so that soil after heavy rainfall, that soil will be moved on lower part. So gully erosion happens to uneven terrains when heavy rainfall forms deep grooves in which the topsoil gets collected. These grooves grow in size over time to form gullies. These gullies lead to the formation of ravines. What is ravines? Deep narrow valleys with steep sides. So sometime the valley which is formed, so in valley we can say agriculture occurred. So how they formed? The soil comes from the upper part of any region and collected in the valley of any mountain. And if we see the upper part or topmost part of the level of valley is being soiled, and by that the agriculture or the cultivation of more and more crops also occurred in valleys. If we see, and that erosion we can say gully erosion, form the soil in valleys and take the soil from upper side of the mountain areas, that is gully erosion. So these gullies lead to the formation of ravines. So by this erosion the valleys has been formed and the agriculture has been processed and occurred. So what are the factors leading to soil erosion? What are the important factors by that soil erosion occurred? If we see, soil erosion is caused by both physical and human factors. Physical factors include slope of the land, high velocity of wind and intensive rainfall. So these are physical factors that are, we can say, natural factors. What are they? Slope of land. If there is slope of land, like gully erosion we said, if there is slope of land from both sides, the water will take the topmost soil in the valley. And what are human factors? And if there is high velocity of wind, high speed of wind also can erode the soil, and intensive rainfall is there, it can also cause soil erosion. If we see, human factors include overgrazing by animals. If there is overgrazing of animals, if animal overgraze the greeneries of the topmost of soil erosion will be occurred there. If animals overgraze or graze more and more, then soil erosion will be occurred. And if we see deforestation, overuse of chemical fertilizers. So deforestation, students, two words are there: afforestation and deforestation. Afforestation, that means if we do plantation of more and more plants, if we develop forest, if we increase forest, that is afforestation. If we decrease forest, or if any reason somehow if forests are in decreasing mode, that is deforestation. And by deforestation, soil erosion occurs because that trees and plants hold that soil firmly, and if there is no plant and trees, erosion will be occurred. And if we see, if somebody use more chemical fertilizers, so that will be also harmful for the topmost of the soil, because vegetation would be affected, and by that soil erosion would be there. And if we see, over irrigation also is the reason of soil erosion. If we irrigate, or if we irrigate more and more water land or area. So if we see, unreasonable agricultural practices can reduce the fertility of soil. If someone is doing unreasonable practices of crops or agriculture, it would be also affect the fertility of soil. And if the same crop is grown every year on the same portion, and in example we see if the same type of crop grown on the same portion of a land, it surely would be decrease the fertility of that soil. So the soil becomes deficient in some nutrients. This is called soil exhaustion. So students, if any farmer or cultivator grow similar crops in similar time or always same type of crops, then the fertility of that soil will decrease and the nutrients of there will be deficient. That means it would not be more sufficient. So that is called soil exhaustion. The nutrients exhaustion of nutrients is soil exhaustion. Okay, exhaustion of nutrients of the soil is soil exhaustion. And what is conservation of soil? Soil conservation is the process of protecting soil from the harmful effects of erosion. Soil erosion and depletion are the main threats of soil. These are methods used to conserve soil. So how we would be decrease the soil erosion? That is soil conservation. How we conserve the soil and how we make it decrease of erosion. So what we would do? Terrace farming. There is some plans for that. If somebody have terrace, that means roof on his house or home, he can farm there. So terrace farming is practiced on the hills and mountains. In this type of farming, steps are cut on the slopes of mountains and crops are grown on these steps. So this situation can be in hilly or mountain areas also. On the upper side of terrace type or roof type of mountains, we can make flat field for agriculture, and by that, this is also called step farming. We can make step of mountains, and these steps help to reduce the speed of the flow of water down the slopes. And if there is farming, the downfall of water will reduce by the gripping of that roots. And if we see, second is contour ploughing. What is contour ploughing? Ploughing parallel to the natural contours of the hill slopes rather than up and down a hill provides a natural barrier to the water that flows down the hill slopes. So if we see, so ploughing parallel to the natural contours of the hill slopes. So if we see, so there is hill and there is slopes of there it. So what happens then? So these all slopes of both sides provides a natural barrier of water that it can't be go outside. So by that we can do ploughing by two slopes of area, and like that area of hill slopes, that by natural barrier and water that flows down the hill slopes. So that water which come down the hill slopes is with connected with or gathered with all humus and soils and fertile soil. This collects that water in the down region, and this ploughing or this farming is known as contour farming. And students, if we see shelter belts, what is shelter belts? Are rows of trees or high shrubs that are planted on the sides of farmland to check the wind velocity and prevent wind erosion. So what is shelter belt? Shelter belts are rows of trees or high shrubs that are planted on the sides of farmland. So if there is farmland, there is square size farmland. So all the what side of that farm, if there are some trees, that would be decreased soil erosion. Okay, that is shelter belts. And crop rotation, cultivation of different crops on the same plot of land every year is called crop rotation. This prevents the loss of any particular nutrient from the soil because different crops draw different minerals from the soil. So if we, if we see the rotation of crops would be different, that time the nutrient of that soil would not be decreased, and sometimes some different crops draw different minerals from the soils. So if we do rotation of different crops, that would draw or that would consume different type of minerals from the soil. By that, a particular mineral would not be affected. All minerals would be decreased or increased in parallel size or quantity. So by that, if we do crop rotation, so by that fertility of soil maintains and soil erosion also occurred less. Then mulching. What is mulching? When bare ground on which crop is grown is strewed with organic matter such as straw, it is known as mulching. This helps the soil to retain its moisture and prevents it from getting eroded. And sometimes by straw or by cutting straws, we take that straws on the earth level, and by that decomposition of straws, sometime erosion decreased and fertility also maintained as it was. Strip cropping. What is strip cropping, student? Growing a cover crop along with the main crop in narrow strips is called strip cropping. If there is, in this square size of farmland, if there is cultivation of, you can say, flowers, okay, and if we cultivate some other thing on the border of this farm to decrease soil erosion, that is strip cropping. Okay. Construction of dams. Floods deplete the topsoil. Dams regulate river water and thus can help in the prevention of floods. So students, flood is also a reason of soil erosion. Heavy rainfall causes flood, and by flood soil erosions have been occurred. So what we can do, by construction of dam, we can decrease these floods. Okay students. So in this video we will discuss up to this. Students, in homework you have to write short summary on conservation of soil, and if there is any queries you can ask on my WhatsApp number. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you.